Hey everyone, and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Alyssa Ashe. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for my nightly news recap. It is Monday, September 17th, as you know, and a lot happened today. We'll be going over some of the devastating effects of Hurricane Florence, what happened with Judge Kavanaugh today, President Trump and those tariffs on China, and just a variety of other stories as well. And it's really important to me that I bring you guys stories that are interesting to you, that you really want to spend your time watching, listening to, digging a little deeper into, and learning more about. So if you have any suggestions, send them my way right here on YouTube or on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. And I will throw that up for a second so that you're able to look at it and just know how to really contact me. And thank you guys so much to those that regularly send me stories. You guys are super helpful, so really appreciate you guys. And also wanted to, real quick, as I like to start out, shout out some fantastic moderators that are in the chat room already. Real Frank in Florida is here. Thank you, Real Frank. And Lynn Jean actually been posting a lot. Thank you so much, Lynn Jean. And let's see who else is here. RSBN moderator is here. Guinevere is here. And some members as well. Mark Hannibal, the Millers, Zoom, DM, JC, Christopher Milner, Duke Moneagle. Thank you guys so much for being here. And James Wolfe. And also wanted to shout out those website moderators that keep our website chat room clean and friendly. Raculp, Common Sense, and Glenn O. Thank you guys so much. And also wanted to give some shout outs to some people watching over here on YouTube. Andrew, Robin, Dedra, Robert, Susan, Josh. I'm sorry, this is on Facebook. Lisa, Tom, Julie, George, and Ruby. Thank you guys so much for your comments, for your greetings, and I hope you are all having a fantastic night. We are going to get right into it. First, we're going to talk about the economy and what President Trump is doing with China today. Now, many of you may have seen, and I have some information I'll be sharing with you guys from Reuters News. So President Trump said Monday he's going to impose a 10% tariff on about $2 billion worth of Chinese imports, but he spared smartwatches from Apple and Fitbit and other consumer products such as bicycle helmets and baby car seats. Now, President Trump, in a statement announcing the new round of tariffs, warned that if China takes retaliatory action against the U.S. farmers or industries, we will immediately pursue Phase 3, which is tariffs on approximately $267 billion worth of additional imports. And also wanted to shout out real quick, we got a $10 donation over on YouTube from Duke Moneagle. Thank you so much, Duke. Really appreciate you. So going back to this Reuters story, so the iPhone was not among the wide range of products that Apple told regulators would be hit by the $200 billion round of tariffs in a September 5th comment letter to trade officials. But if the Trump administration enacts a further $267 billion round of tariffs, the iPhone, along with other smartphones, are likely to be included in the list. So collection of tariffs on the long-anticipated list will start September 24th, but the rate will increase to 25% by the end of 2018, allowing U.S. companies some time to adjust their supply chains to alternate countries, according to a senior administration official. So far, the United States has imposed tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese products to pressure China to make sweeping changes to its trade, technology transfer, and high-tech industrial subsidy policies. So the escalation of Trump's tariffs on China comes after talks between the world's two largest economies to resolve their trade differences have produced no results. And U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin last week invited top Chinese officials to a new round of talks, but thus far nothing has been scheduled. Also, a senior Trump administration official told reporters that the United States was open to further talks with Beijing, but offered no immediate details on when any new meetings may occur. And that official, unfortunately they're not named right here, but that official said this is not an effort to constrain China, but this is an effort to work with China and say it's time you address these unfair trade practices that we've identified, that others have identified, and that have harmed the entire trading system. And China has vowed to retaliate further against any new U.S. tariffs, with state-run media arguing for an aggressive counterattack. So China's yen currency has weakened by about 6% against the US dollar since mid-June, offsetting the 10% tariff rate by a considerable margin. Also, consumer tech has been trimmed. The U.S. Trade Representative's office estimated about 300 product categories from the proposed tariff list, along with some subsets of other categories. But administration officials said the total value of the revised list would still be approximately $200 billion. A broad $23 billion category of internet-connected devices will remain subject to tariffs, but some products such as smartwatches, Bluetooth devices, and other consumer-focused technology products were removed following a lengthy public vetting, during which more than 6,000 comments were received. Now, also spared from tariffs were Chinese inputs for U.S.-produced chemicals used in manufacturing, textiles, and agriculture. Consumer safety products made in China, such as bicycle helmets sold by Vista Outdoor, and baby car seats and other products from Graco Incorporated, were also taken off the list. But the adjustments did little to appease technology and retail groups who argued that the tariffs would hit consumers hard. Now, President Trump's decision to impose an additional $200 billion, this is according to Dean Garfield, who's the president of the Information Technology Industry Council, which represents some major tech firms. He said President Trump's decision to impose an additional $200 billion is reckless and will create lasting harm to communities across the country. Now, the Retail Industry Leaders Association pointed out that the new tariffs would still hit more than $1 billion worth of gas grills from China, $843 million worth of luggage and travel bags, $825 million worth of mattresses, and $1.9 billion worth of vacuum cleaners. And Hoon Quash, who is RILA's vice president for international trade, said tariffs are attacks on American families, period. Consumers, not China, will bear the brunt of these tariffs, and American farmers and ranchers will see the harmful effects of retaliation worsen. So earlier on Monday, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said the United States was ready to negotiate a trade deal with China if Beijing was ready for serious discussions. And Kudlow said, "We are ready to negotiate and talk with China anytime they're ready for serious and substantive negotiations toward free trade to reduce tariffs and non-tariff barriers, to open markets and allow the most competitive economy in the world, ours, to export more and more goods and services to China." Also, kind of looking back a little bit to yesterday, and no Charles Smith, there is not a President Trump rally tonight in Arizona, but stay tuned. This week there's actually 2 coming up, and we will be going to both of them. Thursday is in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Friday is in Springfield, Missouri. So stay tuned as we travel to those rallies. It is going to be so much fun, really exciting. And of course, as you know, if you want to support us and to help us get there, you can do so by donating here on the YouTube chat by just hitting that $, the super chat. And you can also donate on our website, rsbnetwork.com/donate. And a little bit later in the broadcast, I'll show you guys how to get there if you have not been there before. So kind of looking back to yesterday, some more business news from China, and this is from Reuters as well. A China paper warns that it won't play defense on trade as President Trump lauds tariffs. So China will not be content to only play defense in an escalating trade war with the United States, a widely read Chinese tabloid warned, as U.S. President Donald Trump was expected to announce new tariffs on $200 billion in Chinese goods as early as Monday, which he did. The United States and China have already levied duties on $50 billion worth of each other's goods in an intensifying row that has jolted global financial markets in the past few months. Last week, the U.S. Treasury Department invited senior Chinese officials, including Vice Premier Li He, to more talks on the tariff dispute, though skepticism remained high among trade observers on both sides over the prospects of a breakthrough. And China's foreign ministry reiterated that the escalation of the trade conflict was not in anyone's interest. And ministry spokesman sorry, I'm trying to pronounce this right, but Gen Sheng told a regular news briefing, "We have always maintained that the only correct means to resolve the trade dispute is through dialogue and consultation on an equal basis with mutual trust and respect." And a senior administration official told Reuters over the weekend that President Trump was likely to announce the new tariffs today, which he did. And in early morning tweets, President Trump said imposing tariffs strengthen the United States bargaining position, and that so far any cost increases on goods had been almost unnoticeable. And President Trump wrote, "If countries will not make fair deals with us, they will be tariffed." Now, the Global Times, which is published by the ruling Communist Party's People's Daily, wrote in an editorial, "It is nothing new for the U.S. to try to escalate tensions so as to exploit more gains at the negotiating table." And the Chinese language column said, "We're looking forward to a more beautiful counterattack and will keep increasing the pain felt by the U.S." Now, besides retaliating with tariffs, China could also restrict export of goods, raw materials, and components core to U.S. manufacturing supply chains, former Finance Minister Liu Jiwei told a Beijing forum on Sunday, according to an attendee. And Liu is chairman of the National Council for Social Security Fund, and the person who attended the event and is familiar with the White House's thinking, said such a move would likely attract sharp retaliation from Washington, which has studied its own limits on exporting key technologies to China. And this person said Liu's approach would feed the most hawkish sentiments in the U.S. government. China is also a key supplier of minor metals and rare earths used in consumer electronics and other goods, and Beijing has said it would retaliate to trade war escalation with tariffs of its own as well as qualitative measures, which it has not specified, but are perceived within the U.S. business community as likely to include increased customs and regulatory scrutiny. So Beijing may also decline to participate in the proposed trade talks with Washington later this month if the Trump administration goes ahead with the additional tariffs. This is according to the Wall Street Journal on Sunday, citing Chinese officials. And the journal report quoted one Chinese advisory official saying China would not negotiate with a gun pointed to its head. And China has not publicly committed to join a new round of negotiations, but in the past, it has pulled back from the prospect of talks in the face of escalations in the dispute. Now, in April, when President Trump threatened tariffs on another 100 billion of Chinese goods, which was then seen as a major escalation, China responded by saying it would not conduct talks under these conditions. And the Chinese government's top diplomat, State Councilor Wang Yi, will visit New York this week for the annual United Nations General Assembly. Beijing announced this today. So also there is a lagging effect. President Trump has demanded that China will cut its $375 billion trade surplus with the United States and policies aimed at acquiring U.S. technologies and intellectual property and roll back high-tech industrial subsidies. So repeated Chinese vows to reform what critics have argued is one of the world's most restricted markets among major economies have in recent years triggered promise fatigue among foreign business groups that viewed changes as piecemeal. So President Trump has said he will no longer allow China to take advantage of the United States on trade, though opposition to escalating tariffs has swelled in recent weeks within U.S. business circles. So Michigan Governor Rick Snyder, who's known as a moderate Republican and a former computer executive, told Reuters on a trip to China that the anxiety and uncertainty around tariffs risked limiting Chinese investment in the United States. And Snyder said, if you don't know what the rules are or how it's going to operate, you're going to be fairly hesitant about making that investment. And he was in China to promote the state's industries, including autonomous vehicle technology. And he said there was likely to be a lagging effect from U.S. trade disputes with China, Canada, and Mexico that could undercut the positive impacts of President Trump's tax cuts. And he said, I would encourage the national government to resolve it as quickly as possible because that's a concern for all. And this was from Reuters. Also checking over on Twitter to see what you guys sent me. Thank you again to all that send me stories. Really appreciate you guys. I got one from the British Patriot. Thank you for always faithfully sending stories. Really appreciate that. And I'm going to pull it up right now for you guys. And perfect, this is actually one that I was going to share with you guys as well, but I can do it a little earlier. And it is about how many people the U.S. is going to let into the country in 2019. So the U.S. is going to sharply limit refugee flowing to 30,000 in 2019. And U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said on Monday that the United States would cap the number of refugees allowed into the country at 30,000 for fiscal year 2019, a sharp drop in the limit of 45,000 that it set for 2018. And Pompeo said in an announcement at the State Department, we proposed resettling up to 30,000 refugees under the new refugee ceiling, as well as processing more than 280,000 asylum seekers. And he called the United States the most generous nation in the world when it comes to protection-based immigration. And I am going to show you guys a small clip of this. We'll watch just the first minute because we can't watch the whole thing. And I am real quick cutting it for you so it looks a little bit better. And of course, would love to know your thoughts on this. please don't hesitate to share your thoughts on this right here on YouTube, or you can send it to me on Twitter, and I'll definitely share it with everyone. Okay, getting this ready for you. Stay tuned. Okay, and switching over, going to show you about a minute or so of Mike Pompeo's speech today.
Processing up to 310,000 refugees and asylum seekers in fiscal year 2019. We propose resettling up to 30,000 refugees under the new refugee ceiling, as well as processing more than 280,000 asylum seekers. They will join the over 800,000 asylum seekers who are already inside the United States and who are awaiting adjudication of their claims. These expansive figures continue the United States' long-standing record as the most generous nation in the world when it comes to protection-based immigration and assistance. The daunting operational reality of addressing the over 800,000 individuals in pending asylum cases demands renewed focus and prioritization. The magnitude of this challenge is unequaled in any other country. In consideration of both U.S. national security interest and the urgent need to restore integrity to our overwhelmed asylum system, the United States will focus on addressing the humanitarian protection cases of those already in the country.
So just wanted to show you guys a quick clip of that. You can hear how he's saying we're going to focus on those that are already in the country. And I'm going to kind of finish up this article for you guys right now from Reuters. So Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also said this year's proposed refugee ceiling must be considered in the context of many other forms of protection and assistance offered by the United States. And refugee advocates condemned, of course, the lower cap. And Jennifer Quigley of the Human Rights First said in a statement, "Today's announcement is a shameful abdication of our humanity in the face of the worst refugee crisis in history." And Senator Bob Menendez, the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, called the decision cruel and short-sighted. He said reducing the cap would do untold damage to our nation's values and countless lives across the world. And Pompeo said the new limit reflected the administration's preference for settling refugees closer to their home countries, something President Donald Trump has said would be cheaper than admitting them to the United States. And Pompeo said the decision was also based on security concerns. He said we must continually be responsible vetting applicants to prevent the entry of those who might do harm to our country. And officials at the State Department and the Pentagon initially supported maintaining the cap at 45,000, according to one former and one current official. And it was unclear whether they changed their position as the debate proceeded or failed to persuade the White House. So the refugee ceiling set of 45,000 last year was the lowest since 1980, when the modern refugee program was established. And the United States is on track to admit only 22,000 refugees this year, about half the maximum allowed. Now, President Trump campaigned in 2016 promising tight restrictions on immigration, and his administration has sharply reduced refugee admissions through executive orders and closed-door decisions in the past year and a half. Now, also there are some imbalances here. So in the past year, the administration has tightened security vetting procedures that current and former officials say have slowed admission of refugees. And Ryan Mace, who is actually a refugee specialist at Amnesty International USA, urged Congress to oppose the decision as it finalizes fiscal year 2019 appropriations. And May said the Trump administration is abandoning this country's promise to refugees. Today's announcement demonstrates another undeniable political attack against people who have been forced to flee their homes. And in addition to far lower admissions overall, the type of refugee admitted has changed under President Trump. According to a Reuters analysis of government data, the percentage who are Muslim is now a third of what it was 2 years ago, while the percentage who are Europeans has tripled. And this shift has led to striking imbalances. Refugees admitted to the United States from the small European country of Moldova, for example, now outnumber those from Syria by 3 to 1, although the number of Syrian refugees worldwide outnumbers the total population of Moldova. Also, wanted to shout out, over on YouTube, we just got a $1.99 donation from Steve Nisley. Thank you so much for that, Steve. And he says, I appreciate what you all do. Thank you so much, Steve, for donating, supporting us. Really appreciate that, and glad you guys are enjoying what we do for you. So, going to switch over, and we're going to talk about Hurricane, now Tropical Storm Florence for a minute. And this is actually a cool story before we get into some of the harder news, and I'm going to share a picture of it with you guys. It's a story about a North Carolina Chick-fil-A that actually opened on Sunday to help refugees, to help evacuees, not refugees. So here's a picture of that staff posted on Sunday from the Chick-fil-A Triangle Town Center. They say, grateful for an awesome team that not only have hearts for serving our guests every day, but for serving the community as well. So this is from Fox News. In a rare move, a Chick-fil-A restaurant in North Carolina got to work Sunday to help with Florence relief efforts. A Triangle Town Center location in Raleigh was open on Sunday to prepare food as Florence continued to wreak havoc in the area, according to a Chick-fil-A spokesman. And the company said in a statement, while Chick-fil-A restaurants are always closed for business on Sunday, some local restaurant teams volunteer to serve their communities in times of crisis. And the Triangle Town Center restaurant thanked employees for dedicating time on their day off to help those devastated by the powerful storm. The restaurant posted on Facebook, grateful for an awesome team that not only have hearts for serving our guests every day, but have hearts for serving the community as well. And Chick-fil-A explains online why its restaurants are closed on Sundays. On the website, it says, our founder, Truett Cathy, made the decision to close on Sundays in 1946 when he opened his first restaurant in Hapeville, Georgia. And they add, having worked 7 days a week in restaurants open 24 hours, Truett saw the importance of closing on Sundays so that he and his employees could set aside one day to rest and worship if they choose, a practice we uphold today. And real quick, also wanted to answer your question. Dave R. said, where are the rallies this week? Thursday is actually in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Friday is in Springfield, Missouri. So stay tuned for that. We will be going to both. It's going to be really exciting. In Las Vegas, it'll be myself, Margaret, Bailey, and our cameraman. And then in Missouri, it'll be myself, Tom, and Max, and our cameraman as well. And so that is going to be a lot of fun. So 2 kind of different teams, except I'll be at both, and so will our cameraman, of course. So stay tuned for those. They are going to be a blast. And yes, Duke Monteagle says, I went to Chick-fil-A a couple weeks ago and forgot they were closed on Sundays. I know, I have almost done that too. Just, been really excited for it, and then you realize they're closed. But I think it's a fantastic thing that they do, and more companies definitely should participate in that. So also going to pull up a couple tweets for you guys. Wanted to share some hard news. So this is from the Associated Press, and it's an update. Breaking: officials say 31 people have died as a result of Florence. 24 of those were in North Carolina. So definitely heartbreaking. Please keep the families and friends of those individuals in your thoughts and prayers. A lot of sad stories from this, and I know I didn't cover it this weekend, but there was really just continued flooding and power outages, and it was really sad. So we're going to kind of look more into that. I have some more information for you guys from Breitbart. We're going to look at this, and while I go through it, we'll be showing you some of those pictures as well. So this is from Breitbart. Tropical Depression Florence on Monday continues to lash the Carolinas as severe rain and wind batter parts of the region. Flash flood watches have been posted in parts of southern West Virginia as the remnants of Florence fall on saturated ground. The National Weather Service has issued the watch through Monday evening in North Carolina's Greenbrier, Mercer, Monroe, and Summers counties. Officials say weather conditions have never been more dangerous. And before we get into kind of a timeline of it, first just some facts. Florence was degraded from a tropical storm to a depression, and North Carolina's New Bern and Wilmington experienced severe flooding and extensive building damage, and at least 500,000 customers are without power across the Carolinas. Now, analytics from CoreLogic say Florence could cost at least $170 billion in property loss. At least 2,400 flights have been canceled. Now, going to go down and show you guys some photos as we look into it. So this is from Getty, releasing the photos from a donation center in New Bern, North Carolina. And it says members of the New York City Urban Search and Rescue Task Force unload gear after performing rescues during the morning in New Bern, North Carolina on September 17, 2018 in the wake of Hurricane Florence. Catastrophic floods raised the threat of landslides and dam failures across the southeastern United States on Monday, prolonging the agony caused by a killer hurricane that has left more than a dozen people dead and caused billions of dollars in damage. Downgraded to a tropical depression, Florence crept over South and North Carolina, dumping heavy rains on already flood-swollen river basins that authorities warn could bring more deaths and destructions. And going to let you guys take a look at this picture for a second. So it says a man in a walker heads home after getting free food at a volunteer donation center in New Bern, North Carolina on September 17, 2018 in the wake of Hurricane Florence. Catastrophic floods raised the threat of landslides and dam failures across the southeastern United States on Monday, prolonging the agony caused by a killer hurricane that has left more than a dozen people dead and caused billions of dollars in damage. Downgraded to a tropical storm, Florence crept over South and North Carolina, dumping heavy rains on already flood-swollen river basins that authorities warned could bring more death and destruction. And another picture, here are some members of the New York City Urban Search and Rescue Task Force that are relaxing for just a second after performing rescues during the morning near New Bern, North Carolina. And here a volunteer is yelling after getting more hamburger buns in line for free food at a volunteer donation center in New Bern, North Carolina. Now, kind of just looking down at some of the effects, here is Castle Hayne, North Carolina. You can see the northeast Cape Fear River is swollen due to the heavy rain from Hurricane Florence on September 17th. So looking back at a timeline from today, at 8 p.m., North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper says the city of New Bern is a strong and resilient community and will make it through the devastating floods that damaged riverfront buildings and mangled homes and sailboats. And Cooper and House Speaker Tim Moore traveled Monday to the city of 30,000 people about 100 miles southeast of Raleigh to view the damage caused by Hurricane Florence. And torrential rains and storm surge going up the News River left watermarks on homes and businesses measured in feet, making North Carolina's colonial-era capital one of the hardest hit communities when the storm first reached land. So New Bern Fire Chief Robert Boyd said 4,300 homes were inundated by floodwaters, and that's about 1/3 of all the city's homes. And the governor and speaker also worked a line briefly in the Temple Baptist Church parking lot to hand out dinners, water, and ice to grateful motorists who drove in for help. And here is another picture. You can see this is the northeast Cape Fear River swollen due to heavy rain from Hurricane Florence. And at 7:22, WRAL's Jeff Gravely shares footage of the sun setting on a flood-stricken Lumberton, North Carolina. And going to let that play for you guys one more time just so you can see how bad the flooding really is. And don't forget, if you have any stories at all that you would like to hear me share with you guys, please send them to me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. That would be very, very appreciated. And another big story that I have not shared with you guys yet is how President Trump is ordering the full release of FISA and certain Russia documents. And so wanted to share with you guys that statement that came out today from the press secretary. It says, at the request of a number of committees of Congress and for reasons of transparency, the President has directed the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the Department of Justice, including the FBI, to provide for the immediate declassification of the following materials, pages 10 to 12 and 17 to 34 of the June 2017 application to the FISA court in the matter of Carter W. Page. 2, all FBI reports of interviews with Bruce Orr prepared in connection with the Russia investigation. And 3, all FBI reports of interviews prepared in connection with all Carter Page FISA applications. And in addition, President Trump has directed the Department of Justice to publicly release all text messages relating to the Russia investigation without redaction of James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr. And going to leave this up for a second as I share with you guys some more information about this. And we are going to look at his tweets from today as well. So from the Daily Wire, President Donald Trump ordered on Monday that the Department of Justice declassify and release the Carter Page FISA application and all text messages related to the Russia investigation from top DOJ and FBI officials who have come under intense scrutiny for alleged bias. And that's all it says other than restating the statement from the press secretary. So we are just going to take a second to look at his tweets about the matter. He said, immediately after Comey's firing, Peter Strzok texted to his lover, Lisa Page, we need to open the case we've been waiting on now, while Andy McCabe, also fired, is acting. And Page answered, we need to lock in, redacted, in a formal, chargeable way soon. And he says, wow, a conspiracy caught. And then follows up with, this one was actually right before. He said, Lisa Page testimony, no evidence of collusion before Mueller appointment at Fox News by Catherine Herridge. Therefore, the case should never have been allowed to be brought. It is a totally illegal witch hunt. And also going to look at the rest of his tweets from today. He also said Americans deserve to know the lowest drug price at their pharmacy, but gag clauses prevent your pharmacist from telling you. I support legislation that will remove gag clauses and urge the Senate to act. Hashtag American Patients First. And also, he tweeted out, join me in Las Vegas, Nevada at 7 p.m. for a Make America Great Again rally, and also posted a link to tickets, and we will be there. So make sure to come. I'm going to show you guys real quick his website, how you can register. It's on donaldjtrump.com/rallies, and you can see Las Vegas. You just enter your name, say you're not a robot, and you can get 2 tickets per mobile number. And while we're talking about rallies, I wanted to take a quick second to tell you a little bit about RSBN, who we are and what we do. So we are a conservative news network, and we do travel to all of President Trump's rallies. If he's there, we are too. And we make sure to show you guys the crowds, to really pan the crowds, because that's something that the mainstream media neglects to do, and we want to make sure to do it and show you just how many people are there to really get to know them. There's fantastic people that show up to these events, and it's so much fun really just getting to know them and hearing their stories, asking them why they're there. It is definitely an honor, And so we are really thankful to be able to do that. And just wanted to show you guys the different ways that you can donate. So you go to our website, rsbnetwork.com, and you do /donate, or you can click this red tab on the top of the website. The fourth one over says donate. And there are a couple of different ways here. PayPal, which is a really great way. We actually get to keep 90% of that, whereas if you donate over on the YouTube Super Chat, which is a fun way to donate as well, because you just click that $sign and then it comes up in a bright color with your name and a message, and I'll share it with everyone, of course, as long as it's appropriate. But the only downside to YouTube is that we only get to keep 70% of it. So if you're donating on PayPal, we actually get to keep 90% of that donation. And so going over to PayPal, just to show you how you enter the amount, and if it is a debit or credit card and your billing address, you can also save this information for a later time. And you can also donate on patreon.com, which is a really fun way to donate if you feel more invested with RSBN, you really like what you're seeing, you want to make sure to see more of us, and you can see right here how we are still showing the crowds at the rallies.
And I wish those cameras would circle the room to see how many thousands of people are here, because, you know, on the screen I look, and all you see are those few beautiful, wonderful people. I don't know who the hell you got a nice group over there. I know you have Mike and some others. They're going to be so famous. But you see, like, that little group. That's all you see on camera. Would you please circle the room for the few honest? Please circle.
That's so awesome. Just watching that gets me really excited. And we also just got another donation. Thank you so much. $10 from Duke Mon Eagle. Thank you for donating. Again, really appreciate that. Who says Trump? And it really is exciting just to see the energy. It's electric. One supporter that came one time told me that the energy was electric in the room, and I really love that. I really agreed with that. It was really cool seeing people that had just been standing outside for hours and hours, you know, now come inside just to see what they've been waiting for, their promise fulfilled, you know, to see President Trump. Really exciting. People wait hours and hours. They camp overnight. They don't care about the weather, whether there's, you know, rain or snow, doesn't matter to them. They are just happy to be there. And want to switch over one more time and show you how to donate on Patreon. So all you have to do is click Become a Patron right here. And you can enter the different amounts. You can choose your amount, whether you are an all-access donor giving $500 or more a month, or an entry level giving $1 or more a month. Each dollar counts and is very appreciated. And Randall Tom, I see you over here in the YouTube chat, asked if Liz is coming. She's unfortunately not coming to these rallies, but we will still be there. So if you'll be there, and if you have more flags that you want to help us get people to sign, please let me know on my Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. That would be super appreciated. So also wanted to share with you guys that last way to donate. If you are not comfortable donating online, we completely understand and respect that, and you can actually donate by mail. You can just send a check, you write it out to RSBN, and send it to our address, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. And we are super thankful for all of those donations. So, going to get back to the news. And remember, if you guys have any more stories, feel free to share it with me. I have, let's see, looking for a couple others and seeing what you guys have sent me on Twitter real quick. And we are going to take a minute just to finish up President Trump's tweets from the day. He posted Happy Constitution Day with a video that we're going to take a look at. And I apologize, this video has no audio, but you can definitely read along with it. And it finishes up by saying, come see the Constitution on permanent display at the National Archives building. And President Trump also shared a clip from Fox News, from Fox and Friends, about tax reform spurring workers, bonuses, and wage raises.
Not to mention your personal life in terms of the fact that you have more money in your pocket and the fact that you have done so much better given these new policies, but also the glaring ignoring of probably the biggest story of our time. And that, of course, is the cabal of people at the top of the FBI and the DOJ who put their finger on the scale and tried to change an election by creating a narrative that Donald Trump had anything to do with Russia and putting him into the Russia meddling scandal. It's actually incredible. This is what we're talking about today.
Because you got a couple of guests
That's
coming
exactly
up.
Right.
We'll mention that. You got Devin Nunes as well as John Ratcliffe.
Very interesting. And taking a look at his other tweets from today, he said, "It was my great honor to host today's inaugural meeting of the President's National Council for the American Worker in the Roosevelt Room. And some pictures to go along with it. You can see Ivanka Trump was there. Also, he shared a picture with John James of Michigan, He says he has every single quality to be your next great senator from Michigan. When the people of Michigan get to know John, they will say he's a true star, also distinguished military and a combat vet. Also, President Trump tweeted out, "Today, as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we share our gratitude for all the ways Hispanic Americans make our country flourish and prosper. Today and every day, we honor, cherish, and celebrate Hispanic American workers, families, students, businesses, and leaders." So going to take a look at that recap, and hopefully you were able to see his speech that we shared on our channel earlier today.
Today and every day we honor, cherish, and celebrate Hispanic American workers, families, students, businesses, and leaders. Hispanic Americans embody American values, devotion to faith and family, commitment to hard work, enterprise and community service, and a fierce patriotic pride. Hispanic Americans are not only living the American dream, but their incredible efforts are unlocking the American dream for citizens all across our land. America is winning again, and Hispanic-owned businesses are leading the way. They are winning again. Today we come together to honor the incredible contributions Hispanic Americans make to our communities, our culture, and our country every single day.
That was a very inspiring recap of today. Hope you guys enjoyed that and hope you got to catch his speech earlier today. So also going to be looking at a few other stories. This one is kind of crazy. So it's from Fox News. An Inside Edition crew actually got robbed while reporting on a San Francisco Bay Area crime. An Inside Edition crew who baited smash and grab thieves in California's San Francisco Bay Area, where the victims of a true robbery, resulting in the loss of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. So in an effort to report on rampant robberies in the area, Inside Edition employees filmed themselves planting GPS trackers inside items that were placed in a parked car in an area well known for theft. So the trackers were placed inside of a $250 speaker and purse just before reporter Alyssa Guerrero explains for their last trick. They also place video cameras throughout the car in the event the products get stolen. Now, sure enough, two people were soon spotted robbing the vehicle. A man was seen in the segment smashing open the car's back window, pulling out the handbag and throwing it to a woman sitting nearby before removing the speaker. Now, according to a man whose surveillance footage caught the incident, he said it all lasted maybe 20 seconds. And the Inside Edition crew then tracked down the speaker and confronted the duo as they walked into a train station. And Guerrero says, "You've got my speaker right there. You just broke into our car," telling the man they've got it on camera. And while the man tries to shy away from the camera person and at one point even pushing the camera down, the reporter informs him 5 million people are going to see him steal that, and refusing to give it back, the man says he's going to call his mother, an offer Guerrero encourages. And Inside Edition said the man eventually left the speaker, and they later moved on to track the stolen purse, which was found in a garbage can. And while the crew was interviewing the man captured on camera in the initial theft, the actual crew car was broken into via the smash and grab method, leaving thousands of dollars worth of equipment stolen. And according to the San Francisco Chronicle, more than 31,000 people reported smash and grab robberies in the city in 2017 alone. and going to show you guys not the whole thing, but just a quick minute of what happened.
Busting out car windows, grabbing anything left inside. We wanted to see just how bad this nationwide problem is.
So we're using this $250 speaker as bait. And what the thieves don't know is that we're going to be hiding this GPS device inside of it. Our other piece of bait is this Michael Kors purse. We're going to put our tracking device deep inside. And for our last trick, we rigged this car with hidden cameras. There's one here, one back there, and one right here. Then I drove up and parked our bait car at the renowned Alamo Square Park in San Francisco, where tourists flock to take pictures of the famous Painted Ladies Victorian homes. It's a notorious hotspot for thieves. All right, these two are checking out the car.
Watch as these Bonnie and Clyde wannabes stroll up and peer inside our car. They wait here for the sidewalk to clear. Then the thief throws up his hood and he tries to bust out the front window with the glass puncher, but it doesn't break. So he goes for the back window and
there he goes, he just broke in.
First, he grabs the purse and tosses it to his female accomplice.
He's got the purse.
Take another look from this nearby surveillance camera. But he's not done yet. He reaches back in and struggles to pull out our big speaker.
Definitely crazy, ridiculous that's happening, but really cool they caught it on camera. I can't show you the entire thing, but I will post a link to that video right here. It's in the YouTube chat now if you want to check that out. So also, you guys, especially if you watched my stream earlier today, you are very aware of what happened to Judge Kavanaugh, how he was accused of sexual misconduct back in high school. And so got some more information on that for you guys from the Daily Caller, that he has actually hired an award-winning female lawyer over this assault allegation. So U.S. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh hired attorney Beth Wilkinson to represent him in an upcoming hearing regarding allegations of sexual assault ahead of Thursday's nomination proceeding, which is not happening anymore. We just got an update from the Associated Press that it is going to be delayed, and instead Judge Kavanaugh and his accuser Blasey Ford are going to come before the Senate Judiciary Committee on Monday. So Kavanaugh hired award-winning lawyer Wilkinson of Wilkinson Walsh plus Eskovitz to represent him, according to multiple sources. And Wilkinson has been lead counsel in over 50 jury trials and litigated sources of significant cases for the Army. She also played a major role in prosecuting the Oklahoma City bombers, according to her website. And she was named in 2015 as Litigator of the Year, in addition to winning a number of other awards. And news of Wilkinson's hirings comes after allegations that Kavanaugh tried to force himself on fellow high schooler Christine Blasey Ford when they were both minors. Ford now alleges that she thought he might inadvertently kill me. She said he was trying to attack me and remove my clothing. And the allegations were first reported by the New Yorker September 14th. The woman's name was reported on September 16th. And reports also indicate that multiple media outlets possessed this information as early as July, but did not release the information until California Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein sent a letter to the FBI about the allegations September 13th. So really crazy that Senator Feinstein held on to it for months and then decided to just drop this bombshell right before he was supposed to be confirmed. But Kavanaugh and the White House reject all allegations of misconduct. Kavanaugh said in a Monday statement, "This is a completely false allegation. I have never done anything like what the accuser describes to her or anyone. Because this never happened, I had no idea who was making this accusation until she identified herself yesterday." He said he was not even at the party that Blasey Ford described. Now, Kavanaugh is set to speak with the Senate Judiciary Committee Monday evening about the sexual assault allegations. And Peter Doocy also tweeted out from Fox News. He said, "New Brett Kavanaugh will speak at 5:30 p.m. to Judiciary Committee staffers with new questions about allegations of sexual misconduct, per a source familiar with the confirmation process. None of the Democratic members of the committee plan to participate, per statement." And some more information about it from the New York Times, that the hearing is set for Monday to hear Kavanaugh and his accuser. So the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, under mounting pressure from senators of his own party, will call President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, and the woman who has accused him of sexual assault before the committee on Monday for extraordinary public hearings only weeks before midterm elections. And in setting the hearing, Senator Charles Grassley, Republican of Iowa, backed down from a committee vote on Judge Kavanaugh's nomination planned for this Thursday and pushed a confirmation once seen as inevitable into limbo. So the hearing with Judge Kavanaugh and Christine Blasey Ford, a research psychologist in Northern California, sets up a potentially explosive public showdown that carries unmistakable echoes of the 1991 testimony of Anita Hill, who accused the future Justice Clarence Thomas of sexual harassment in an episode that riveted the nation and ushered a slew of women into public office. So it will play out against the backdrop of the Me Too movement, which has energized Democratic women across the United States in an institution in the Senate that is more than 3/4 male. So President Trump vigorously defended his nominee on Monday. He called him an outstanding judge with an unblemished record and dismissed this as ridiculous, the prospect that Judge Kavanaugh might withdraw his nomination. And President Trump said he is somebody very special. At the same time, we want to go through a process. We want to make sure everything is perfect, everything is just right. And he told this to reporters at the White House today. He said, if it takes a little delay, it will take a little delay. It shouldn't be very much at all. And I want to share President Trump's thoughts with you guys. If you missed it earlier during my stream about Kavanaugh's accusations,
"6 seconds on how Watson..."
And going to pull this up for you guys in just a second. Like I said, in case you missed it, want to make sure that you have a chance to see his statement, or at least about a minute of it. And as you can imagine, this announcement just caused a crazy day in Washington. Senators of both parties absorb the accusations against Judge Kavanaugh, who only last week seemed on a glide path toward confirmation. And I'm going to show you the first minute of President Trump's statement about it. And this is from CNN.
One of the finest people that I've ever known. He's an outstanding intellect, an outstanding judge, respected by everybody. Never had even a little blemish on his record. The FBI has, I think, gone through a process 6 times with him over the years where he went to higher and higher positions. He is somebody very special. At the same time, we want to go through a process. We want to make sure everything is perfect, everything is just right. I wish the Democrats could have done this a lot sooner because they had this information for many months and they shouldn't have waited till literally the last days. They should have done it a lot sooner. But with all of that being said, we want to go through the process. One thing I will say is that, as I understand it, Judge Kavanaugh spent quite a bit of time with Senator Feinstein, and it wasn't even brought up at that meeting, and she had this information. So you would have thought certainly that she would have brought it up at the meeting, not wait till everything's finished and then have to start a process all over again. But with all of it being said, we want to go through a full process. I have great confidence in the U.S. Senate and in their procedures and what they're doing. And I think that's probably what they're going to do. They'll go through a process and hear everybody out.
Also wanted to show you what Kellyanne Conway had to say about it today. And Kavanaugh saying that the allegations are completely false. Just going to mute that real quick so that you guys don't have to see this ad. And I know you're saying that the allegations are completely ridiculous. I completely agree. We're just covering it because it is important. It is still news, and hopefully Kavanaugh can just get through all of this and the left can really just calm down so that he can be confirmed and just move on past these ridiculous allegations that there's not even any evidence for. So I wanted to see if they had a video of him actually saying that he hadn't done anything, but they don't. So we're not going to watch CNN reporting, but we are going to watch Kellyanne Conway's statement.
Let me make very clear on behalf of the President with whom I've spoken at length about this. So put aside all the nonsense that's on TV and in print from people who couldn't possibly be a source familiar with his thinking. She should not be ignored or insulted. She should be heard. But I talked to Senator Lindsey Graham, and he said that that could be done tomorrow so that we can proceed forward. And that's really, we respect the process, and we're also watching the process.
Definitely, sorry, didn't have sound there for a second, but you heard her say there that she respects the process, they're watching the process, and they want to make sure that everything moves along smoothly. So a little bit more information from the New York Times. So by Monday, both the contents of the letter and Dr. Blasey's identity had spilled out in the open, intensifying what had already been a nasty partisan battle over Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation. And yes, okay, you're saying no sound, but you'll see it in a second. There's a delay. So Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the Republican leader, angrily assailed Democrats for raising the accusations at the last minute, and Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, the Democratic leader, demanded the FBI investigate and raise questions about Judge Kavanaugh's veracity. And on Monday evening, the Mercury News in California published the accounts of two friends of Dr. Blasey's who said that she told them in July that she was going forward with her accusations. And it will be up to Judge Kavanaugh to convince wavering senators of his innocence. Both Senators Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, Jeff Flake, Republican of Arizona, said Monday that if true, Dr. Blasey's accusations would disqualify the nominee from the Supreme Court. And Ms. Collins told reporters, obviously, if Judge Kavanaugh has lied about what happened, that would be disqualifying. For my part, I believe that it's very important that both Professor Ford and Judge Kavanaugh testify under oath about these allegations. I need to see them and listen to their answers to the questions in order to make an assessment. And Mr. Flake told reporters that he is presupposing nothing with this hearing, but added, if you believe the charges are true, you vote no. And Washington's advocacy machinery also sprang to life. A conservative advocacy group said it would spend $1.5 million on a television advertising campaign to defend Judge Kavanaugh, while a liberal group stated a $700,000 ad buy intended to pressure senators in swing states. Allies of Judge Kavanaugh made public letters from two former girlfriends attesting to his character, while a hashtag sprang up on Twitter, hashtag #BelieveChristine. So Judge Kavanaugh spent the day at the White House huddling and strategizing with aides in a war room across from the West Wing, from which they had meticulously planned his path to confirmation. On Monday, however, the discussions were about how to salvage his chances through a hearing that officials were resigned to becoming a dramatic public spectacle. And eager to defend himself from an accusation he insisted was untrue, Judge Kavanaugh had wanted to put out a statement over the weekend signaling his willingness to address the charge with the committee, according to allies and an administration official who insisted on it being anonymous to characterize his thinking. But Donald F. McGahn II, the White House counsel, and others urged Judge Kavanaugh to hold back until they had a chance to determine how seriously the accusation was being taken. And they believe there might be a chance that working with Mr. McConnell and Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, they could push past the accusation of a decades-old episode and handle it privately while keeping a Thursday vote on track. So by Monday morning, however, with Dr. Blasey's lawyer stating Dr. Blasey was willing to appear in front of Congress, Mr. McGahn and others changed course and agreed that Judge Kavanaugh should put out his statement. And the statement said, "I have never done anything like what the accuser describes to her or to anyone because this never happened. I had no idea who was making this accusation until she identified herself yesterday." And on Capitol Hill Monday, Mr. Grassley and Mr. McConnell initially resisted calls for hearings and instead arranged telephone calls to allow Republican and Democratic aides to interview both Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Blasey, a plan that Mr. Schumer rejected as a biased, far-fetched process. And also wanted to shout out over, we just got a donation on YouTube. Thank you so much to Randall Tom for that $10 donation. He is one of our front row Joes and fantastic supporter and cheerleader for RSBN. He said, "See ya in Springfield Friday, Patriots." challenge all to bring in 3 viewers and donors on Friday. Thank you so much, Randall. Really appreciate you and hope that we're able to do that and that those viewers and donors will be there so that they can meet you. Thank you so much. So a little bit more from the New York Times. Still, there were other Republicans who feared the committee had made a dangerous misstep in agreeing so quickly to a public hearing and without having fully deposed either Dr. Blasey or Judge Kavanaugh. These Republicans fear that the party and the White House could unexpectedly and irrevocably lose control of the nomination when the witnesses take the stand. And both in the letter to Mrs. Feinstein and in an interview published Sunday by the Washington Post, Dr. Blasey said that during a gathering of teenagers at a private home in suburban Montgomery County, Maryland, the future Judge Kavanaugh, along with a friend, pushed her into a bedroom as she was making her way to a bathroom. And she said the young Mr. Kavanaugh jumped on top of her, grinding his body against hers as he tried to remove her clothing. And when she tried to scream, she said he clapped his hand over her mouth to muffle her cries. And she wrote in her letter, they both laughed as Kavanaugh tried to disrobe me in their highly inebriated state. And she said, with Kavanaugh's hand over my mouth, I feared he may inadvertently kill me. So her lawyer, Deborah Katz, said in an interview with Dr. Blasey, that Dr. Blasey was ready to go before the committee. And she said, we hope that this hearing is fair and not another weaponized attack on a woman who has come forward with allegations of sexual misconduct against a powerful man. And public hearings could be charged, especially in a political year marked by rising female political activism and a surge of female candidates. No Republican women serve on the Judiciary Committee, and senior Republican men appeared ready to defend the nominee. Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah said, I believe him, when he told reporters after a private phone call with Mr. Kavanaugh on Monday afternoon. And Mr. Hatch said he saw lots of reasons not to believe Dr. Blasey's accusation. And Senator Hatch said, he's a person of immense integrity. I've known him for a long time. He's always been straightforward, honest, truthful, and a very, very decent man. And Mrs. Feinstein came in for particular criticism from Republicans who took shots at her for withholding the information about Dr. Blasey until last week. And Mitch McConnell said, if they believe Judge Kavanaugh's accuser, why didn't they surface this information earlier so that he could be questioned about it? And if they didn't believe her and chose to withhold the information, why did they decide at the 11th hour to release it? Now, Mrs. Katz has said Mrs. Feinstein withheld the letter because she was respecting Dr. Blasey's wishes to remain private. Ultimately, after rumors of the letter circulated on Capitol Hill and she was confronted by Democratic colleagues on the Judiciary Committee, Mrs. Feinstein referred the letter to the FBI, asked why she had waited so long. The senator hesitated. She said, I don't know, I'll have to look back and see. And she said the answer is that she asked it will be confidential. And checking Twitter right now. Got a couple more stories for you guys that I will be sharing. Thank you very much. And we just got a $15 donation from James Wolf over on YouTube. Thank you so much, James. Really, really appreciate you. He says Kavanaugh going up, deep state going down, and real President Trump playing this one like a stable genius MAGA CAG. Thank you so much, James. Really, really appreciate you. And going to share with you guys now an article from one of our loyal viewers. You guys all know him in the chat room, the British Patriot. Thank you so much for sending this my way. It is actually from BBC News that Google admittedly changes phone settings without letting Android phone users know, without, asking for their permission. So Google has apologized after Android phone users noticed that the battery saver setting was remotely activated last week without their consent, and the battery saver affects how often apps update and work in the background. And the firm took to discussion website Reddit to explain that it was conducting an internal test that was mistakenly rolled out more widely, and the affected devices appeared to be running the Android Pie operating system. So battery saver can also delay notifications and stop location services when the device is not in use in order to preserve power. And the company said on Reddit this was an internal experiment to test battery saving features that was mistakenly rolled out to more users than intended. And they said, we have now rolled battery saver settings back to default. Please configure to your liking. Sorry for the confusion. And while many of the affected posters on Reddit described having a Google Pixel device, other brands of Android devices were also mentioned, including the Essential phone, which was designed by one of the creators of Android. And technology commentator editor Kate Bevan, editor of Which Computing Magazine, said her phone was affected. She said, I noticed the other day that suddenly my battery saver was on and I was a bit puzzled by it. She said, I don't want any app or operating system reversing decisions I've made unless I know why they're doing it. She says, it's about transparency and consent. It may well be a good idea that a change is being made, but I still want to know why. And also an interesting article from Ronnie Mercer over in the sports world. Thank you so much for sending this my way. This is from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. So this is about the Washington Redskins. Their sellout streak ended after 50 years. So for the first time since 1967, fans could walk up to the ticket booth and buy a ticket to the Washington Redskins game minutes before it started. And the Redskins ushered in this new era by demonstrating how they got there in the first place. So Washington's new management team is serious about bringing back the thrill for fans. There will be a flyover before every game. There are now areas to stand and socialize while watching the game. And arriving and departing from the stadium have become significantly easier in recent years. But the one factor that matters the most is winning, and that wasn't accomplished. So some observations from the field. And this was during their game on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. So the Redskins' offensive line was bad. That's the first place to start. After controlling the action in trenches a week ago, the line allowed a lot of pressure on Alex Smith, and it didn't give Adrian Peterson anything to work with on the ground. Peterson's final line, 11 carries, 20 yards. New Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus was in Dallas for the past 7 years, and his history there was evident in the way Indy attacked the Washington offensive line. There was lots of movement and an attempt to get the Redskins out of sync on their assignments, and it worked. and the Redskins defense had its gaffes. The unit struggled with the basics like tackling that were so crisp in a season-opening win. The young secondary got caught out of position, and they weren't great on third downs, but at the end of the day, allowing 21 points to a potent Indianapolis offense isn't the end of the world, especially when creating 2 takeaways. It's what happened on the offense that dictated this result. So Jay Grudgeon suggested that in the past game, Indianapolis played a lot of cover 2 defense with the aim of denying deep shots. And Gruden said he wants to make sure the Redskins are willing to take a short gain and keep moving, a hallmark of his administration in Washington. And what that means in practice, a lot more Jamison Crowder and Jordan Reed. Their 12 targets represented only a quarter of Smith's throws, which is probably not enough. And Josh Doxson had his chance to be an impact player early, but dropped a 30-yard gain that hit him in the hands, and that's going to stick with a player that was already struggling to win over the Redskins fan base. One bright spot was that Matt Lenidis continues to bloom into a quality NFL player. Another bright spot, newly signed receiver Jehu Chesson was a monster on special teams, nearly blocking 2 punts and downing another to create a favorable field position. Not so bright spot, Chesson was targeted on a key 3rd and 5 pass. He showed inexperience by not coming back to the ball, and the pass fell incomplete. So in a game where the Redskins struggled to generate any momentum, Smith lived up to one area where he needs to excel. He didn't turn the ball over. Any turnover would have been massive in the flow of this game. And 3 Redskins offensive linemen, Brandon Sheriff, Trent Williams, and Morgan Moses, left the game with injuries but returned later. Sheriff was wearing a knee brace, while Williams said his injury was the result of complications from off-season surgery, but added, "I'll be fine." So a little bit of sports news for you. Thank you very much, Ronnie Mercer, for sharing that with us. Really appreciate you. And checking over on Twitter just to see what other stories you guys would like me to share tonight. Thank you so much. And this is awesome. It looks like Citizen Kane has sent me a tweet about a Hurricane Florence volunteer rescuing 6 dogs. And I am going to pull this up and share it with you guys. Now you can hear them barking, getting it ready. Really sweet story. And I'm going to click myself out of this real quick so that you can see the dogs. Hold on.
Come on, puppy. It's okay. Come on. Come on. Go over here. Come on. Nice puppy. Come on. Come on. Come on, puppy. Come on.
So definitely really sad to see them. They were just stuck in a locked cage, but really awesome that they were saved. So thank you so much, Citizen Kane, for sharing that with us. Really, really appreciate you. I love when you guys send me stories because it really enhances the newscast so much, because it shows me what is important to you and what you would like to see and how I can better serve you. So going to share with you guys a couple more stories, and then we will have some uplifting stories that the British Patriot has sent us. Always love, you know, finishing up the broadcast with uplifting stories. There's so much negative news in the world, and so it's such a blessing when we're really able to look at those positive stories as well. And so swoosh for Trump. I know you wanted some Space Force news. This isn't about Space Force, but it's about SpaceX. And I thought you might find it interesting. So it is from Reuters News that SpaceX's first private passenger is Japanese fashion magnate Maezawa. So SpaceX, Elon Musk's space transportation company, on Monday named its first private passenger as Japanese businessman Yusaku Maezawa, the founder and chief executive of online fashion retailer Zozo. So a former drummer in a punk band, billionaire Maezawa, will take a trip around the moon planned for 2023 aboard its forthcoming Big Falcon rocket spaceship, taking the race to commercialize space travel to new heights. And the first person to travel to the moon since the United States Apollo missions ended in 1972. Maezawa's identity was revealed at an event on Monday evening at the company's headquarters and rocket factory in the Los Angeles suburb of Hawthorne. And Maezawa, who is most famous outside Japan for his record-breaking $110 million purchase of an untitled 1982 Jean-Michel Basquiat painting, said he would invite 6 to 8 artists to join him on the lunar orbit mission. And the billionaire chief executive of electric car maker Tesla Inc. Musk revealed more details on the Big Falcon rocket, or BFR, the super heavy lift launch vehicle that he promises will shuttle passengers to the moon and eventually fly humans and cargo to Mars. And the BFR could be conducting its first orbital flights in about 2 to 3 years. So Musk had previously said he wanted the rocket to be ready for an unpiloted trip to Mars in 2022, with a crewed flight in 2024, though his ambitious production targets have been known to slip. And he said, it's not 100% certain we can bring this to flight. So the amount Maezawa is paying for the trip was not disclosed. However, Musk said the businessman outlaid a significant deposit and will have a material impact on the cost of developing the BFR. So the 42-year-old Maezawa is one of Japan's most colorful executives and is a regular fixture in the country's gossipy weeklies with his collection of foreign and Japanese art, fast cars, and a celebrity girlfriend. So Maezawa made his fortune by founding the wildly popular shopping site Zozo Town. His company Zozo, officially called Start Today Company Limited, offers a made-to-measure service using a polka dot bodysuit, the Zozo suit. And with SpaceX, Amazon.com founder Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, and entrepreneur Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic battling it out to launch private sector spacecraft, Maezawa will join a growing list of celebrities and the ultra-rich who have secured seats on flights offered on the underdevelopment vessels. So those who have signed up to fly on Virgin Galactic suborbital missions include actor Leonardo DiCaprio and pop star Justin Bieber. A 90-minute flight costs $250,000. So short sightseeing trips to space abroad, Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket are likely to cost around $200,000 to $300,000 at least to start, Reuters reported in July. And SpaceX has already upended the space industry with its relatively low-cost reusable Falcon 9 rockets. And the company has completed more than 50 successful Falcon launches and snagged billions of dollars worth of contracts, including deals with NASA and the U.S. Department of Defense. And SpaceX in February transfixed a global audience with the successful test launch of its Falcon Heavy, the most powerful operational rocket in the world. And now I want to move on to those positive stories that the British Patriots sent my way. Thank you so much for those. And also, this is really cool before those positive stories. Another positive story from Christopher Milner. Thank you so much for sending this my way from WSB TV. That Hurricane Florence evacuees get free admission discounts to Atlanta attractions. So thousands were forced to evacuate North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia this week ahead of Hurricane Florence, which officially made landfall on North Carolina Friday morning. But local sports teams, restaurants, and attractions here in Georgia wanted to extend some southern hospitality to evacuees with free tickets and discounts. So here is a running list of where evacuees can present their IDs to get free admission or special discounts in Atlanta: at the Atlanta Braves games, at the Children's Museum of Atlanta, at the College Football Hall of Fame, at the Fox Theater, the Georgia Aquarium, at Kennesaw State Football, Five Church Atlanta, Andretti Indoor Karting and Games, Atlanta Bread, Atkins Park Restaurant and Bar, Aurora Theater, and many other locations. Really, really a sweet story. Thank you so much, Christopher Milner, for sharing that. And looking right now at those positive stories from the British Patriot, thank you so much for these. And this one has a really sweet video that we will take a look at in just a second. And this is from Fox News, that a military mom's joyous airport arrival with her young son goes viral. So a military mom had a sweet reunion with her young son at an airport after returning home from her first deployment. Air Force Staff Sergeant Chelsea Spicher spent 6 months in Jordan away from her husband and 2-year-old son Bennett. And Spicher and Bennett talked on FaceTime nearly every day, and she said the only thing getting her through her time overseas was imagining the day she'd be reunited with her son. And when the moment finally arrived, she burst into tears as Bennett ran toward her at the arrivals gate, now in a viral video of the heartfelt moment. And she said she was initially nervous about how her son would react since she hadn't seen him in so long, but the young boy was clearly overjoyed by the encounter, as he can be seen jumping into his mom's arms and grabbing her face. And I'm going to pull up that video now for you guys. Such a precious story, and credit to Fox News for sharing that. So we are going to share our last positive story of the night. So a military family escaping Florence's path gave birth in a Florida hospital, and this is from Fox News as well. And I will pull it up so you can see a picture of them, and they're sweet, looks like twins. So it says a pregnant military couple who evacuated Hurricane Florence approached North Carolina, as Hurricane Florence approached North Carolina, gave birth to healthy twin girls in Florida just days earlier. And Nicholas DiGreggio and his wife Danielle left Camp Lejeune, a U.S. Marine base in Jacksonville, which was not evacuated, on Tuesday as a precaution, Fox 30 reported, and doctors were set to induce labor a week afterwards on September 18th. The couple drove to see family 12 hours away in St. Augustine, a long ride in which DiGreggio says she prayed the entire time. She said, "I was nervous the entire car ride, praying the entire time. I was like, please don't let me go into labor yet. Please don't let me go into labor yet." And on Thursday, DiGreggio went into labor and reportedly had a C-section at Naval Hospital, Jacksonville. She gave birth to two twins named Scarlett and Sadie. And there you can see a picture of Scarlett and Sadie, just absolutely precious baby girls. And it says the happy parents told Fox 30 they were excited to head home soon as a family. So precious. Thank you so much to the British Patriot for sharing this with us. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to my nightly news recap here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Appreciate each and every single one of you so much. And remember to tune in this week as we are traveling literally all across the country, 2 rallies back to back. It's actually going to be crazy. We're going to be flying overnight from Las Vegas to Missouri, just to make sure we're bringing you guys that coverage. So we're going to be powered by a lot of coffee and by your prayers and donations. So thank you so much for your support. Make sure to tune in for that first rally we're going to have on Thursday. We'll of course have our pre-show Wednesday night in Las Vegas. So it is going to be so much fun. And once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in here to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Alyssa Ashe, and I hope you all have a blessed night.